This is HBR News number 484. Derek Chauvin case updates. Andrew Tate case dismissed, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Good morning, good evening, and happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. On this lovely December 24th. My name is Brian, and I am joined by, as always, Hannah and Dr. Ranmercam on this week's HBR News show. So I hope you guys are ringing in the Yuletide so that you are not driven insane by whatever is coming. Although I would say that there seems to be a bit, I don't want to get too caught up, but there does seem to be a little bit of winning going on. So maybe the insanity has been staved off, at least for the time being. What am I talking about? Well, we're going to get into it. What was that, Hannah?
I have hope, and I'm fired up. So there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So I think it's possible that we're going to see some more fight in people. I'll just put it that way. I wouldn't say that things are going like 360 or 180. 360 would put you back where you started. But definitely some pushback. So, and this is good.
Hope is for gays. Hope is for gays.
Hey, I grew up next door to Hope. You can't talk about her like that.
Hope is the reason that
actually, she was pretty easy on the gays.
Hope is the reason that so many right wingers are embracing the Young Turks right now. Oh yeah, they understand now.
No.
Boyger is coming across and saying, "Yeah,
no, that's just
we realize you're great now." And Anna Kasparian is coming across and saying, "We realize you're so great now." No. That's
being gullible.
Don't be. Yeah, that's just being dumb. Anyway, we're going to talk about the news, and this week's news is going to be, in my opinion, important, but also overall positive. But it's sort of like it puts into perspective one of my primary goals ever since I've been doing the work I've been doing at HBR. And it's going to challenge people because there's some controversial people we're going to be talking about on the show today. But I think it's important that we discuss this because it is relevant to what we do here at Honey Badger Radio. And what do I mean by that? Well, we're going to be talking about the latest news updates and stories. Like this week, we're going to be talking about the case against Andrew Tate and where that stands right now. The George Floyd story is not over, as Derek Chauvin has been given approval to re-examine some evidence that he did not get from his counsel that may change the verdict, at least on the federal level, I believe. And a certain online personality named Nick Fuentes was supposedly nearly murdered. And we will get into all of those things and why it is important from our Badgerly perspective. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we hope that you guys will stick around for that. And you are, in fact, available to talk to us here on Christmas Eve. I know it's going to be kind of a slow week, not a lot of people, because you guys are, hopefully you're seeing family or something, or maybe you have them all sitting around the internet campfire and they're all listening to us talk about the news. Now, wouldn't that be a scary thought? But anyway, so
if we are your family, then that's fine too.
Yes. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron only show. We're going to be looking at this, speaking of the vibe shift, or at least what appears to be the beginnings of something. The New York Times, in a moment, possibly a moment of self-reflection, asked the question, is the awkward diversity era of Hollywood behind us? The past decade's clumsiest attempts to cram new faces into old stories now feel like a moment in a genre of their own. So, because, Hollywood's failing all over the place, and they're starting to say, wait, Hans, are we the baddies? So we're going to talk about that in the Patreon show if you want to join us for that. And I think it's going to be a fun article because I kind of skimmed through it. Please consider becoming a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to set up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, where you'll be able to watch all of the additional content, including the after shows, as well as some exclusive things that Allison does, and other stuff. And you'll also stay connected with all of us and everything that we're doing in the space. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been just given all of the coal and sent off to the mines in the North Pole, I assume there are mines there for people like us, then go
I, for one, appreciate all the coal that Santa gives me. I'm as naughty as possible every year so that I can create a coal-powered plant.
Drill, baby, drill. Fossil fuels.
Exactly.
Please, but go check out where our archived content is at honeybadgerradio.com or badgerfeed.com. Okay, with all that out of the way, let us get into today's stories. And I mean, I'm going to keep, hopefully we can keep it brief. And if we can, I have 3 stories, but if there's time, we'll do a 4th one. But I'm trying to keep it like, pretty tight so that, I can enjoy my holiday and the rest of you guys can as well. So Derek Chauvin, you might know, he was the police officer that was thrown in federal prison by a jury regarding the death of one St. George Floyd. And when he was in federal prison, he was stabbed 22 times by an FBI informant that was also a prisoner that somehow was alone with Derek, and he miraculously survived. But we thought, well, a lot of people thought that it was over for him and that he either was rotting in jail, deserved to rot in jail, or that there was no such thing as justice and he was not going to get out. No matter how you felt about it, things look pretty bleak for Mr. Chauvin. But it looks like Derek Chauvin's legal team has been granted permission by U.S. District Judge Paul Mangason to examine heart tissue and fluid samples from George Floyd's autopsy as part of an appeal that's challenging Chauvin's federal civil rights conviction. The examination is based on a theory by Dr. William Schaetzel, who suggested Floyd could have died from a heart condition known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy rather than from the actions of Chauvin. This condition, also called broken heart syndrome, can lead to sudden heart failure due to intense stress. Chauvin's attorneys argued that his previous case counsel, Eric Nelson, failed to pursue these tests, which they believe could have cleared Chauvin by showing Floyd's death was due to a medical issue, not asphyxiation from Chauvin's knee on Floyd's, quote, neck, unquote. This development comes amidst ongoing legal battles, with Chauvin currently serving a sentence for the 2020 incident that sparked widespread, fiery, but mostly peaceful protests.
Wait.
Yeah.
Now, I heard something through the grapevine about how some kind of development in the Chauvin case, that he was going to get some kind of breakthrough with regard to the available evidence. And I thought to myself, great, someone's finally going to acknowledge that toxicology report about the methamphetamine and the whole enough fentanyl to kill a moose thing.
An elephant, yeah.
But am I hearing this right? Broken heart syndrome. Isn't that what babies get when, as determined in one of those Russian experiments they used to do on babies, when and where it was still mysteriously legal, when you keep them sufficiently fed and sufficiently hydrated, but you never give them the skin-on-skin contact or just the basic mechanical stimulus of human interaction. Like how if you deprive a baby of physical access to its mother or indeed father, that turns out to be as deadly as depriving it of food. Is that what we're talking about? Contrary to what you may have heard from Nancy Pelosi or many others about how George Floyd called out for his mama while he was choking to death on a fentanyl overdose. He was not, in fact, calling out for his mother, his biological mother. He was calling out for his girlfriend, whom he referred to as Mama. I know that sounds weird. Like, why would that be a thing? But when you think about it, it's no more weird than a woman referring to her partner as Daddy in perhaps slightly different circumstances, which is to say, yes, in both cases, that is a little bit weird. I still think it's weird that couples call each other baby or just babe. It leaves me wondering about
What they do.
etymological history of that word baby. Like, I guess it just means beloved one or whatever. I'll have to look it up. I could have looked it up already, but I didn't bother because I'm lazy and we're short of time. And maybe I'm getting some wrong shit here. Maybe this descriptive iteration of broken heart syndrome is different from the one I'm thinking of. But whatever it is, it's not what killed George Floyd. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor of biology or psychology, although a doctor of psychology is a term misappropriated with such splattershot arbitrarianism I might as well be one, but I don't think these are the kinds of hairs we should be splitting. The man died from an overdose of a drug that is notorious for causing overdoses. Like, I never pictured myself as someone who
this type of overdose
to point this shit out for a living.
This type of overdose can actually cause this type of heart reaction.
Yeah, but it's not. You can't describe it as broken heart syndrome unless it literally breaks your heart, which is anything that can literally break your heart.
It's actually called that, but it's actually also associated with fentanyl overdose. Before fentanyl overdose was a known thing, it was also associated with what you were talking about and a few other things. But it's also associated with fentanyl overdose. It is considered a potential trigger due to the extreme stress that it places on the body during withdrawal. It can also happen because of withdrawal from other opiates and other intoxicants. Cocaine can also cause it. So it's not just something that happens under one circumstance. And I think the way that it got that name actually has more to do with that sometimes when somebody loses a partner, their heart undergoes that level of stress and they end up having this type of heart attack as well, just from the pain. But yeah, having this type of heart failure doesn't preclude drug overdose. It actually is kind of a supporting indicator.
Mike,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, Mike, did you have more to add to that? What you were saying?
Yeah, like, it's weird. I never pictured myself as someone who has to point out this shit for a living. When you can die from an accidental drug overdose from a drug that you accidentally took, because I, for one, grew up in a safe, wholesome environment where you could buy a batch of black market pills and you could be sure that the unknown and untested contents of those pills would constitute cocktails of weak street drugs that could fuck you up horribly, but it would at least not kill you. Unless you took like 20 of them.
Yeah, they don't want you to die. You're going to buy any more drugs after that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have to look over your shoulder whenever you buy these pills, forever wondering if 4 of them, like in 12 hours, will deliver you directly to the morgue. It's a shitty time to be alive, folks. Whether you're following the rules or not. George Floyd died because he didn't follow the rules regarding responsible drug use in the advent of fentanyl. As Derek Chauvin, well, his life has been ruined and he faces the constant looming threat of death because he did follow the rules of detainment as mandated in the state of Minnesota. So yeah, this is scary in so many dimensions. If you follow the rules, you die. If you don't follow the rules, you die. if you try to find that perfect balance between somehow following the rules and not following the rules, you die. You really, it doesn't even matter anymore. You could commit a crime and get away with it. You could commit no crime and go to prison forever anyway. In many ways, this is the best time in history to be alive because you'll never be bored. You might be overworked, but you'll never be bored. And in many ways, this is the worst time in history to be alive because you'll be constantly overstimulated. You might be overworked, but you'll be constantly overstimulated. And yeah, well, with that, I yield. I wonder how I am to follow my own advice. It shouldn't be difficult, but it weirdly is. Wait, did I even give any advice? No, I didn't. I just cynically illustrated the problem. All right, fair enough. Consider this. Consider this me cynically illustrating the problem, and do with that what you will. I'm tired. So tired.
Fair
Is
enough.
anyone else tired? Never mind. It's Christmas Eve. It's okay to be
Yeah.
tired. But tomorrow we
Yeah.
wake up and we make an effort, and then we once again become tired as fuck. I suppose that's life. Is that life? Yeah, I suppose that is life. You get tired, you get woke, repeat infinitum. It's fine, really. You get tired, you get woke, you get tired, you get woke forever and ever. Amen. And then you die, and then you're born. Repeat ad infinitum. I should stop. I should have stopped, but I won't stop. Somebody stop me, please.
Can't stop, won't stop.
There you go.
All right. Hannah,
Honestly,
did you want to
the
say
biggest
anything
deal
else?
out of this is that he gets another chance to evaluate evidence that might be exculpatory, and he was denied the opportunity to have that evidence examined and potentially used in the case. And I like that's a due process violation. So they absolutely have to fix that for him. And if it's not, then he's been imprisoned without his due process rights. Like that's really the biggest takeaway here. We have known since the beginning that there was evidence that Chauvin's death was due to the effects of a drug overdose.
Floyd's
And
death.
a lot of people don't think about it, but a drug overdose isn't just like you have too much of this in your system, you get past this level and you keel over and die. It's your body has something fail as a result of that. And usually it is your heart or your brain, and it might be both. And that's so it's not surprising that it's this particular type of heart attack. Drug overdose usually comes with all kinds of nasty symptoms: heart attacks, seizures, strokes. It's pretty ugly. So yeah, it's very possible that this is exactly what happened. And it's great that he's getting a chance to pursue it, and it is terrible that he didn't initially get a chance to pursue it. So I am glad that they're finally remedying that.
Yes, and hopefully that will prove to be fruitful. I just want to say, because we talked a little bit about this in the after show when that's when we learned about this, that they were going to be that they were approved for, I think they call it discovery, to sort of examine these samples they have from Floyd's body that I believe were taken like at the time of his death, so it was like right after he died. But here's the thing that makes me a bit hopeful. Number one, well, we covered this like when it happened, so before all the rioting started kicking off and everyone was getting really emotionally swept up in the media absolute like firestorm that erupted. This was in the summer of 2020. People were locked down with COVID stuff, and there was all these things happening in the news, and everything was very tense. And this broke out, and people were like activists and angry, lefties or whatever. They were ready to burn everything down, and this was just, it was like the spark, right? And it was everywhere. Dave Chappelle did a whole comedy special based on that, where he just went on and on about how awful white people are. And before things got to that point, or at least to the point where cities were burning, the the website called the Daily Mail, as tabloidy as they are, they had the officers' body cam footage. And even when it happened, I said, that looks really bad, but that's the reason why I'm really suspicious. Like, just based on how bad it looked and how we were told to look at it in the light that it appeared to be. And I said, I think I'm going to wait for more evidence. And the body cam footage came out, and we went through it on the channel. I insisted, and the reason why, and this is the thing I want to get at, okay? I'm not interested in racial politics, even though that's been made into racial politics. But what this does is, it ultimately victimizes men like Chauvin and Floyd, because neither of them were served by the politics of the day, by the system as it existed. Okay? Floyd was a product of feminist policy directly. The fact that he came into a world where, being involved with drugs and crime was normalized by his environment, which was created by the welfare state and feminism by extension. And he had never had a chance. Like, he was probably, if that incident was not filmed, he would have died like shortly afterwards, and no one would know his name, and nothing would have burned down. But because it was politically expedient to Black Lives Matter, a feminist organization, to turn him into a martyr and a symbol of white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism and all the other isms and obias, then they were able to go about wrecking everything. And the police were just caught up in the storm, but the people in charge, like the commissioners and the captains and the chiefs and the senators and aldermen and governors and district attorneys, they were all corrupt. They all got the mayor. They all sided with Floyd, with Black Lives Matter. They all threw Chauvin under the bus. They threw all of his officers under the bus as well. It had nothing to do with the way that these cops were trained. Derek Chauvin didn't do anything wrong, and I'll tell you how I know, because there was a documentary, and I talked to Hannah about this, and I highly suggest you guys watch it. It is not easy to find on YouTube, because of course YouTube doesn't want you to see it. It's called The Fall of Minneapolis. It is very it goes into very extreme detail into Floyd's criminal history, into all of the health conditions that he had, the autopsies, the corruption in government. They got testimonies from police officers. They got testimonies from paramedics. They got testimonies from doctors, all these other people that did not get to see the light of day, and how the jury was essentially, they were scared into essentially accusing of being guilty, because the judge said, well, don't watch any news, but it was everywhere. It was unavoidable. There were people there that were BLM supporters in the jury, right? So he was done, cooked from the beginning. And they go into the training. They go into whether or not the restraint that he used could cause asphyxiation. They go into all of it. And the thing that's kind of cool about this is that this documentary and the people involved with it and all the people that were interviewed and everything else, they're all going to be a part of his appeal case. So they're going to use that as evidence, hopefully, to get, I'm not saying he's going to get off, because who knows, he may not have a strong enough case to end all the charges, but I think that the truth matters. And the truth is that no one who sided against Chauvin that can claim to be an MRA, because they didn't look at the case. I have to treat George Floyd as a man who has problems, and some of them are systemic, and some of them are social, and some of them are familial, and some of them are just a product of their environmental, but they are all important. But I also, because I'm consistent, I looked at Chauvin's case too, because his wife divorced him when she thought he was guilty, and he lost his family, and he went to jail, and somebody tried to murder him. And on Black Friday, by the way, the day after Thanksgiving, we covered it on the show, and it was because he was the wrong kind of man. And I say that all men deserve to be treated fairly and with decency, and they deserve due process and everything else, right? So if we don't want more George Floyd deaths, then we have to be honest about the problems in those parts of the population and how they are related to the welfare state, to feminism, and everything else. That's how you create George Floyd's. But also, Derek Chauvin's, they deserve to be heard. We should not dismiss them because of the color of their skin, because ultimately that's still about him being a man. Because if it was a woman, it would be a much more difficult thing to, make the case against. So the fact that he's a man, the fact that they're both men, makes it like impossible for most people to see that, because they just see cop and black guy, because that's how we're framed. That's how everything is framed for us. Okay, if it's a white cop, then essentially that was what this trial was about. It was not a trial on a man for potentially, killing another man, because that didn't happen. It was a trial of what was on trial was the United States itself, and the charge was racism, and it was all just a vehicle to do as much damage as possible. And I had to flee the city of Chicago because of what happened. So for me, this is very personal as well. But I'm being really objective here. They have a very strong case for Chauvin if there is a way for it to be heard and he could get an appeal. And I hope he does. And I hope that it's made extremely public so that everybody that sided with all this shit, they see it and they have to confront that in themselves, because what we need is a mass reckoning for people to have a gigantic look in the mirror. How did I contribute to this problem moment? This has been a long time coming, and it wasn't just from the BLM riots. It was also from things like Me Too, things like COVID, the lockdowns, the vaccine, all of it. All of it. It's time for people to wake up, and they got to be like, I was a part of this problem and now I have to repent. That's what I'm asking. So that's my piece on that. Watch The Fall of Minneapolis. I'm telling you, it is worth it. It will change your mind. Even though I was already convinced, because I looked at the body cam footage, but I also looked there. They have other footage of other incidents. They show a lot more. I mean, George Floyd was high as fuck before the police came. And when they did, which wasn't for a while, because like Derek Chauvin didn't come to the scene until about 8 minutes after the initial police came on the scene, which was after George Floyd tried to pass off that counterfeit bill to the Middle Eastern guy that ran the restaurant there, or the grocery store, and he called the cops on him. So, and he was high then. And when the cops showed up, he just popped a whole thing of something because he was afraid, because thought he was going to go to jail because he's been to jail before. So, that this is not a thing that happened in a vacuum. There's a story around it. Fall into Minneapolis. Check it out. I also watched the whole thing because they let me stream the whole thing without any cost to me on my YouTube channel. And you can watch it there as well. So please check it out. I'm telling you, it's worth it. It'll change your mind on a lot of this shit. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. I got a super chow that I should read from Meredith G. Thank you, Meredith, for $5. And she says, HBR News 484, hope isn't what has Cenk showing up on right-wing shows, it's the grift. While Anna appears to have been on a slow journey to conservative, the fact is Cenk is pivoting because if he doesn't, he is in debt. He is still an authoritarian ass that no one should trust. 100%. I mean, I know that people on the so-called right are so desperate to be friends with people on the left that they'll take any concession as like, oh my God, please, like we got him. They should remain vigilant. Cenk is a snake. He is a manticore, part buffalo, part man, part serpent.
Nothing compared with Anna. Have I ever told you the story of the boy who cried, "There is no wolf"?
I don't trust Anna either.
Continued to cry, "There is no wolf," until a wolf manhandled her, and then she was all of a sudden like, "Oh man, I don't like all these wolves. How on earth did this happen? Fuck you. You kept crying, there is no wolf." I want to have compassion for people who have lied for their entire lives. But at some point you have to go, yeah, no, you told us forever that there is no wolf when we knew that there is a wolf. And this is the story of the boy who cried, "There is no wolf," and there is I got just killed by a wolf. Fuck you. No, just fuck you. Just fuck you.
100%. I agree. I think I don't trust Anna.
If you want to see how far Cenk has come, ask him about the Armenian genocide and see how he reacts.
He's like they're going to lose. They're losing their credibility. I mean, they probably already had, And yeah, this puts them on damage control. So I would say don't trust them 100%. I mean, be gracious, but that doesn't mean you show them your back so they can put a knife in it. All right. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that and about this story. And again, go to my channel. I think I covered it on. I have a really small channel that I was trying to do something with called He Said, She Said, and I watched the whole movie on there. And I didn't talk through it. I just watched the whole thing, and then I gave my commentary at the end. So you could just watch it there. Or look for it on Rumble, because I know it's on Rumble. The Fall of Minneapolis. Watch it. Telling you. All right. Anyway, moving on. Let's get into the next story. So Andrew Tate is in the news. And here we go. So a Romanian appeals court has ruled that the criminal case against Andrew Tate, a British-American social media influencer known for his controversial views on women, cannot proceed to trial due to numerous procedural errors by prosecutors. That's right, the prosecutors made tons of mistakes. Tate, along with his brother Tristan and 2 Romanian women, were indicted on charges including human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. The Bucharest Court of Appeal found flaws in how the indictment was presented and sent the case back to prosecutors for further review. This decision marks a significant setback for Romania's anti-organized crime agency, DIICOT. I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce that, so I'm just spelling it out. But does not mean the case is closed. The prosecutors have the opportunity to amend their charges or present new evidence. Meanwhile, a separate legal case against the Tate brothers continues in Romania. And they also face apparently tax evasion charges in the UK, which is totally based. So he's winning, it looks like. Now, all I'll say about this is this, okay? First of all, what your opinion is of Andrew Tate has nothing to do with whether or not he's guilty. That's all I'm saying. You can dislike him if you want to. That's your business. I personally am indifferent. I'm super indifferent to the guy. He doesn't mean anything to me. And I think that that's probably the best position for most people to hold. But that being said, if you dislike him, that doesn't make him guilty. I know you want it to be that that's the case, but it doesn't, okay? And if you like him, that doesn't make him innocent either, obviously. And this should be really obvious, but I feel like there's so many people who just hate the guy that I have to spell it out to them like they're 5. So what? Okay? I believe in this. If anybody, because Andrew Tate's claim is that the system, the government, whatever, the matrix as he calls it, doesn't matter. The system was trying to get him. And I don't think that's that crazy in light of all of the recent events that we have talked about on the show regarding people like him, but many other people who are dangerous to the establishment or the elites or the globalists, whatever it is. Look at what's happened to Alex Jones. Look at what's happened to Donald Trump. Look at what's happened to any number of people. Look what happened to Lauren Chen, for example. So I don't think that it's crazy for him to say that. And I think that this means that whether or not he is guilty of a crime, it is extremely important that we follow that, that all of the rules be followed as close to like the law allows, right? So that he is treated fairly and justly. Because if he is persecuted politically and people who dislike him stand by and say, well, I don't like the guy, so he can burn in the cell for all I care. Well, guess what? You don't care about men. I'm back at the same point. Point number 1, he is a man. He stands accused. Guess what? Men don't get treated favorably because they're men, right? In fact, if you want to throw somebody in jail and they happen to be a man, you just basically you have easy street. All you have to do is get enough women crying on the stand and they'll be like, your tears could say more than any evidence could allow. So we're going to throw him in jail and throw away the key or burn the Constitution or whatever, the Bill of Rights, whatever it is, right? Let's kill all the babies. Whatever it is, just get women to come forward and play victim. And that's kind of what happened in this case. And none of it stuck. And he explained it on a video that he did on his channel when he got the news that it was being that it was being dismissed and that the lawyers are working on another case, but they're probably not going to have anything. I mean, I think if they didn't get it right the first time, they're probably not going to get it right this time. And all I'm asking for my audience is, that you set aside your personal feelings for this guy you don't know and just look at the case objectively and say, okay, you know what, he's being treated. Because the thing is, if they can do that to people like him, they can do that to people like you. And you'll be like, why didn't I stick up for that guy when that was happening? So that's it.
And yeah, it's and this let this be a message to all the passport bros. And I know this is ironic of me to say it because I think I might be a passport at this point.
It's a
'Cause
weird way because I normally passport bros go to like Thailand.
Yeah,
but-
I'm desperately trying to come to the United States because an American woman and I have fallen in love, and I'm
Gay!
he's pretty gay, I know.
That's
But,
so gay.
Yes,
Have you
falling
ever-
in love with a woman is totally gay.
Have
Take
you
my
ever
word for it, I'm a
met
woman.
a British woman? Like,
yeah.
I know-
I have actually.
I know. There's a lot can be said about American women, but it's nothing compared with British women. This is why I am passport broing my way into America as soon as I possibly can, because this all originated in my part of the world. But Andrew Tate's case is a pretty good illustration of how you may think you may be able to pick your country and go to that country and do whatever you like. And I'm not just talking about falling in love with a woman and trying to make a life with her. I mean if you want to create a cottage industry of cam girls, where you exploit women into exploiting men into exploiting women into exploiting men and so on. But there really is no given country on this earth where you can do that. In the event that you get too good at doing that, because almost every country in the world is like, no, we love women far more than we don't love men. There's no such thing as loving men. We love women, and if you come here to exploit women, then it doesn't matter how much you're exploiting men. If you're exploiting women even 1% in the process of your 100% exploiting women, then yeah, we can be corrupted by larger governments such as the UK or the US, and we will drag you through the court systems, and we will put you in a prison cell with rats and cockroaches for as long as we feel like doing it, and yeah, so let this be a warning to all the passport bros. You may think you can go to Thailand and think you're safe, but imagine the things that the Thai government can do to you. You may think you can go to Singapore or fucking Uganda or any fucking any country that's not, you know, under the umbrella of the West, and you'll think you'll be safe. The Philippines or whatever, but you're not safe, because all of these countries are getting. I don't want to say Americanized, but yeah, taken under the same political rubric of this feminist empire that the US and the UK have all been taken under. Like, anyone who's willing to to make a gamble on a Western man is probably aware of what can be done to a Western man. Like, so
Mhm.
yeah, you're not going to escape this kind of centrism by running away to another country, unless you've very severely vetted the woman to whom you are using to escape. I know this is easy for me to say because I seem to have found the one American woman who is not a giant cunt. And I, you know, like I say, I'm incredibly lucky. Any of you who think you've landed something as lucky as that, it's possible that you haven't, and it's maybe possible that I haven't. Like, I vetted this woman to make sure that she's had at least 10 years of experience in the men's rights community. That's how high my standards are. And unless that's how high your standards are, don't think you've got a sure bet.
Why are you gay?
Who says I am gay? You are
You
gay.
are gay. You are transgender. All right,
Gee.
Hannah, you want to say anything?
So, yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me here is the bit about the prosecutor making so many mistakes. Like that, in any case, is a huge red flag, right? They're not supposed to make mistakes. Prosecuting attorneys' offices are supposed to get their ducks in a row and do their job meticulously, very carefully, because their whole deal could wrongfully imprison somebody, can wreck an individual's entire life, their entire career trajectory, can impoverish families, make people homeless, take children's parents away from them, and so on. So they're not allowed to make a mistake in the case that a judge would find egregious enough to say, hey, this is actually going to affect your ability to continue this case. They're not allowed to do that with one mistake. And this judge mentioned multiple mistakes.
Yep.
And Dan Bongino had an interesting thing to say about that with regard to Secret Service, right? Incompetence can be a sign of stupidity and stuff like that, right? But what he said about repeated incompetence being deliberate, I believe that too. When somebody does an incompetent level of mistake making over and over again in their profession, in their trained profession, you don't like fall out of a car in front of the courthouse and then they make you the prosecuting attorney. You go to university, you have to take the bar exam, you have to develop a practice as an attorney, right? You have to have time in court as an attorney. You don't just like walk out of university and suddenly you're a prosecutor. You have to run for the office in a lot of places. And in some places, yeah, it's appointed. But in a lot of places, you have to run for the office as well. So it's not something that, this guy should have been given a pass on making a mistake of that level, much less a shitload of mistakes at that level. That
Mhm.
is not an accident. That is deliberate. That is, I can get away with this shit, right? And it really doesn't matter if the guy he's doing it to is universally hated. If he thinks he can get away with it because the government has reason to go after the guy. If he thinks he can get away with it because the guy's politically unpopular, it's still due process violations. And it's something that we have to nail down in terms of the men's rights movement. It doesn't matter whether we like a guy or not. It doesn't matter whether we think somebody is a complete and utter fucknut that none of us want to be associated with, that none of us support the activities that he's criticized for or anything like that. There's a huge difference between supporting someone's lifestyle choices and declaring that they don't deserve due process rights when they're accused of violating laws that maybe they didn't violate. And so it's very, very important that we recognize when we see these red flags, we shouldn't be jumping on a bandwagon to condemn an individual just because of that. So I'm not surprised at seeing that this is the result, and I won't be surprised at seeing further efforts by DICOT, or I don't know if they call it DIICOT or whatever, to go after him, especially if they really do believe that there's illegal activity that they can get him on. But in this instance, they fucked up, and they probably fucked up because they didn't have a real case.
Yep. And to again, just to reiterate, we stood up for Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, fucking Danny Masterson. Didn't matter what we felt about how we felt about these people personally or what their politics were or anything like that. Brett Kavanaugh, We just saw that there was some really sketchy shit going on with these allegations. All of Blizzard Studios, the game company that basically got a bunch of men fired and then women took over and then the company went to shit. Yeah, that's why. We stood up for the animation industry. We stood up for the music industry. And it didn't matter if they were, even if they may have turned out to be guilty, we just wanted the process to be just and fair. So however it landed is how it landed, but we didn't want the deck stacked. Stood up for Trump as well, who faced ridiculous allegations. So it doesn't matter what you think about these people. Yeah.
Yeah. So just imagine for a second, all right? And I'm not saying that this is what I think, but imagine that Andrew Tate was guilty of everything he's accused of, right? Now imagine that this case ends up falling apart and gets completely dropped because of these mistakes. What happens to the victims?
Mm-hmm.
That's the other reason why due process is important.
Yes.
It's important because if he's not guilty, he shouldn't be punished. But it's also important because if he is guilty and the case ends up getting destroyed by stupid mistakes, that affects the victims.
Yes. 100%. All right. But yeah, that's all I got about this case. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. And we're going to move on to our last story, but there could be one more after this. And this is about another person that everyone loves to hate. So Daramuth gifted 1 subscription to HB Radio. Thank you, Daramuth. I don't know who that is, but I appreciate that. Mocking Monica was gifted a membership by Daramuth. Cool. Let me just share this on the... Can I share this on the screen? Okay. Very cool. Thank you. And then I got a super chat from Albatross for $2, and he says, Merry Christmas, Badgers. Merry Christmas, Albatross, and Merry Christmas to everybody that's watching. I'm not going to say Happy Holidays or Season's Greetings. I'm going to say Merry Christmas.
I'm going to say Happy Christmas.
Or Happy Christmas
as a compromise.
There we go.
Yeah. And Merry New Year. All right. So, online commentator and internet shitposter Nick Fuentes found himself in a potentially deadly situation after his real-life address was leaked online by detractors earlier last month. The 26-year-old found himself doxxed by online activists after posting a series of inflammatory statements online, with the most incendiary one being the now infamous "Your body, my choice." Hey, bitch. A play on the classic pro-abortion phrase, "My body, my choice." On November the 10th, after his address was circulated online, Marla Rose, a leftist activist, a feminist, by the way, not that that is any different than leftist activist, showed up at Fuentes' residence in order to force a confrontation with him. She was going to give him a piece of her mind and do it on the internet. Fuentes responded by macing her. Fuentes was eventually arrested and charged with misdemeanor battery. His court case is still ongoing. A second, much more serious incident occurred on December the 18th, which is about a month and some change later. A man, later identified as John Lyons, showed up to Fuentes' residence armed with a handgun and a crossbow. The man knocked on his door and repeatedly shouted, "Yo, Nick," seemingly to try and get Fuentes' attention. Fuentes was live streaming at the time, so he ignored the calls or the knocks at his door. When police arrived, the man forced his way into the house of one of Fuentes' neighbors and killed their 2 dogs. After a short foot chase and exchange of gunfire, police fatally shot Lyons. It was eventually discovered that Lyons had committed a triple homicide of a family earlier that same day in southern Illinois, south of Chicago. Fuentes would take to social media shortly afterward and state, quote, "Last night, an armed killer made an attempt on my life at my home, which was recently doxxed on this platform. The gunman carried a pistol, crossbow, and incendiary devices. I believe he intended to kill me. He is now dead. I am okay," end quote. Fuentes would eventually state on Twitter his intentions to move away from his current residence to protect himself and those around him. And I just wanted to say about Nick Fuentes, because this is extra fascinating, okay? So Nick Fuentes is a notorious, online, kind of alt-right. Some people call him white nationalist. Some people call him provocateur, right? He's on the ADL's list. He's called anti-Semitic, all this other stuff, right? And I mean, his actual allegiances, number one, are not irrelevant, but number two, they're kind of hard to pin down. So it's kind of pointless to like, try to say he fits into this box or that box or whatever, because he's always flip flopping on shit. But one thing he does well is piss people off, and he pisses off like Jewish lobbies, Zionists, black activists, everybody. But the only people that he crossed that made him pay for it to this degree were feminists. And this is important. They got his address, they posted it online, and women showed up at his door. And he said, this is what he said. He talked to police. It wasn't just the woman who showed up at the door and with the intention of like giving him a piece of her mind, and she had her camera, like her phone, like she was gonna post it online and like score a bunch of points with her girlfriends, and he maced her. But he claimed that he had people showing up to his house all the time, calling him, knocking on his door, standing outside, looking at his building, taking pictures. And so he just felt unsafe from the moment they doxed him. And it was women who did it. And they sent feminists down there to harass him. And eventually a white knight by the name of John Lyons said, I'm gonna save the women. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna take care of this problem. And I'm just put this in perspective, okay? This guy has been hated by the left for what, like since 2015? So almost 10 years. And no one has tried to kill him until the feminists got mad. Until he told them that they lost the 2024 election, he rubbed it in their face a bit. And here's the best part. I have a couple personal trolls on X. And I shared, when I learned the news of this attempt, I said, this is leftist violence. Like, they call what people who dissent against them do as violence, when all they do is talk shit, they taunt, they meme, they cast insults, whatever, they say rude things on the internet, and they say this is violence. But when they respond, it is with actual violence. Like, they try to kill people, they try to eliminate people, they threaten to blow up the White House, they threaten to kill people who dissent, right? It always comes back to, we should kill these people because then everything will be better. They actually act out on that. And when these people doxed his house, they just put the address out there and they were like, well, I hope nobody uses this to go confront him with a gun or a crossbow. And so they did, because this is what they wanted. And so I just wanted to like point out that it is the feminists that actually got the closest. And it makes sense if you understand that all of this other shit boils down to men and women. And these women know that. And so I think that was going to be something else, but I think that's all I'll say for now about that. So you guys can go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to point out, this Leon's guy might not have been as innocent as just a white knight. Because, I mean, if he pulled off a murder earlier in the day, a triple murder earlier in the day.
Yeah, a triple murder. And he
Showed
killed
up
two
at
dogs.
Fuentes' house. And then when he was going to get caught, broke into another neighbor's house and killed their two dogs. Like, this guy may have been a professional.
Maybe.
Just,
I mean, he didn't.
not just some asshole.
Yeah.
What was he doing going from one killing to harass another individual? He may or may not have been hired to do this.
Mm-hmm.
He may have been on his way from committing another crime, and Fuentes' house was convenient, and he just happened to really pick the wrong place. That's a possibility. But I would be concerned if I was Fuentes that
sure.
somebody may have hired this guy to come to my house and kill me. But the other part of it is the fact that someone showed up at his house to harass him, refused to leave, and when he maced them, he got arrested. What you need to take away from that, listeners, is this. If this ever happens to you with a conflict where you're in conflict with someone online and they decide to take it into the real world and they come to your house, do not answer the door. Doesn't matter what they do, what they say, doesn't matter what your neighbors are hearing, doesn't matter, any of that. Just do not come to the door. Call the cops. Tell the cops there is a trespasser on your property refusing to leave, that you have not invited this person, they are unwelcome, and you can't get rid of them and you're afraid to answer the door and let them deal with it. Don't mace them, don't confront them, don't yell at them, don't give them the finger, don't pour a pot of urine out your upper story window down onto their head. Tempting as it may be, just call the cops, have the cops come and get them, and follow through by filing a complaint at the police department and taking it all the way to court. And the more people do that, the more people will be hesitant to show up at your house and confront you over internet arguments. Fuentes is a dipshit, in my opinion. And if I was on the other side of an argument with him, I would not find him worth confronting in person. Because it wouldn't, to me, be worth the risk that I might break a law and get in trouble with police and end up with something on my record, lose my job, and have all kinds of other consequences just to say whatever I might want to say to this individual about his opinions on the internet. Right? There isn't anybody that I've had an argument with on any social media that I would behave that way toward, because I don't like suffering negative consequences for my actions. So I don't take actions that I think are highly likely to come with negative consequences. Somebody who does do that is either stupid or a little bit, or maybe a lot crazy. And if someone who is stupid or crazy comes to confront you, they're also dangerous. So even the lady that he maced, he didn't know that that lady didn't have a gun. Women can carry guns.
Sure.
Right? I legally still own the gun that I don't have anymore and don't use anymore. It's still, I think, in my name. It is in the possession of a family member who was going to repair it, but I don't think they ever did. But in any case, women can carry guns, women can shoot. And when you're like right on somebody's doorstep, you don't have to have fabulous aim to do catastrophic damage to their body, even with a small caliber gun.
Yep.
So, it's really a dumb idea to open the door. If there's some asshole out there yelling nasty things at you and they showed up to have an internet argument with you in person. But as far as the doxing thing goes, there's a response you can have to that too, and it is effective in its own way. If somebody publishes your address on the internet and is clearly using that to try to threaten you or intimidate you, you file a police report. And it may seem like a silly thing to do, but police do contact social media administrations because of that. We went through that at A Voice for Men years ago. Somewhere on my account in my old posts is a post where I actually took a picture with my address over my shoulder, my apartment number over my shoulder, and informed the doxer that was doxing all of us that he couldn't intimidate his way out of a paper bag. But it was basically because I didn't want the other addresses that this person posted as my address to get harassed. But yeah, you file a police report. And I filed a police report. Several others of us filed police reports. Twitter got contacted at the time. The individual was banned. The addresses were taken down. And it was known that if anybody involved in the debates that were taking place at that time on Twitter between us and some well-known feminists and some well-known bloggers who call themselves journalists, that those people would be suspects, and nothing ever came of it. We never had to deal with anybody showing up in person. And that's what you do. Even if you're in a stand your ground state, don't engage in violence you don't have to engage in. Don't work for free. That is free labor that you are providing when you do that. right? It is free risk-taking that you're engaging in, that nobody's paying you for, and you're never going to be able to collect on it in a lawsuit either. Don't take that risk. Don't do that labor if you don't have to. There are already other people getting paid for it. Use their services. That's what they are there for.
Yep.
Yep. I almost regret calling Nick a gay fed now. Well, he's still gayer than ever, and that's fine. That's fine. You can be what you like. That's fine. Point is, he's a lot less likely to be a fed. Yes, he's still as gay. He's still that many syllables. He's that gay, and that's fine. The point is, he's less likely to be a fed in light of recent evidence.
Yeah.
Or is he? Eh? Let's do the dramatic beaver or the dramatic.
Oh,
the animal was.
dramatic hamster.
Dramatic hamster, but did any? That's the one. Good,
Yes.
well done, right? Did any of this really happen? Am I going to go full Alex Jones and say none of this really happened? No, no, I can't afford the legal ramifications of that on account of not having $1 trillion in my back pocket right now. But I suppose we can speculate on how likely this series of events is to happen to someone who is a federal asset. The obvious answer seems to be, if he was a federal asset, this wouldn't be in the news. All evidence will have been erased. And yes, one would assume that would be the protocol. Then again, we're not supposed to know who Ray Epps is, but we do. He's never mentioned in the mainstream media. And Democrats in Congress are just leave this poor guy alone, will you? Who even is Ray Epps? He's your guy. Just leave him alone. Wait, aren't you in the process of imprisoning people for years for the crime of walking in a place where they shouldn't have been walking? But you want us to shut the fuck up about this guy caught in 4K instigating the aforementioned crime of walking. No? All right. Interesting. Definitely a fact. You see, the thing about people is they're incompetent, particularly when you give them power without accountability. They inevitably slide into incompetence and corruption and incompetent corruption. And that's the federal government, any federal government, in quite a nutshell, if you will. So for even 1,000 federal assets, one of those thousands happens to be so incompetent as to get caught on camera and become a world famous internet celebrity. You know, when you sound it out, it doesn't make much sense. So all things considered, no, I don't think Nick Fuentes is a fed. If he was, he would have been executed by now, or at least kept completely away from the public eye, like Ray Epps was.
True.
And has been. Like, yes, there's always been a 4D possibility that we're not looking at. Beyond that, there's always been a 5D possibility that we're not looking at. And the feds lie in the 6th dimension with the ayahuasca demons. So you never know. You never know how many steps ahead of us these lizard people really are. You never know how many of the US are feds. Even here at HBR, any of the people who've joined us and then wigged out and then we never heard of them again, I often wonder if Lauren is a fed. I mean, a beautiful woman who's not crazy and she just so happened to fall in love with me. I've never heard of anything so obviously psyop. I often wonder if I'm a Fed. Like maybe I've been a psyop all
Could
along.
be a Manchurian candidate
Yeah, but
activated.
I had my brain erased and rewritten like in Total Recall. All of these things are possible, but at the end of the day, they are, unlikely to various degrees. We have to live our lives day to day in this volatile middle ground where we give some benefit of the doubt to a considerable majority of the entities with whom we interact regularly. Otherwise, we'll go mad. And then we'll go mad 1, mad 2, mad 3, and so on.
We're all mad here.
I have gone on many tangents here. Have you noticed that's so much I don't particularly want to talk about?
It's all right.
I don't particularly want to talk about Nick Fuentes because at the end of the day, he's a celebrity. He's like Destiny. He's not famous for the things he creates. He's reached the point where he's famous just for being famous. And the dicks he sucks. And all the dudes who suck his dick. That's a whole different world. A world I hope I never ascend to or descend to, depending on your point of view. So yes, I don't think Nick is a Fed, and I really do think he actually got hassled by a real life murderer.
White Knight.
In real life. No, in real life. But part of me nevertheless feels compelled not to give a shit. Because the lifestyles of the rich and the famous are areas of interest that I prefer to avoid. Is that envy? Yeah, maybe. Whatever. You are richer than me and more famous than me. I therefore hate you. That's fine. That's perfectly human of me, but I'll work on it. I suppose I'll go ahead and not kill CEOs. Fine. God, get off my back, will you?
There you go.
God.
Fuentes may not be a Fed, but they are definitely storing their file on him under the password C:**:*.
Well, I did not bring up this story because of the person being targeted. I brought up this story because it is an example of white knighting gynocentrism in play. If the guy wasn't a hired professional. I mean, he obviously didn't pull it off, so there is that. But I will say that, again, he is a man hated by a lot of people, but the feminists got the closest to him. And I think that's worth pointing out. But anyway, so that was the main thing. I don't care about Nick Fuentes. I think he's just another person that built a little bit of a internet presence or infamy. And and again, I will defend anyone. I don't care if I think that they are being treated unjustly. I'm going to speak out. So, all right. Let us know what you guys think about that one in the comments. We got a little bit of time, so we can probably touch on the last story that Hannah sent me. Let me just grab the link here. This is from Slate. Is that what it's from? Or it says Slate Report. Slate Report? That's not Slate. So this is from slatereport.com. Ohio mom dumped newborn in sorority house trash with mac and cheese and texted baby's daddy, "It was a girl with your hair." Wow. What a monster. Holy shit. Okay. So I don't, is this a long art? I could read like this briefly, or you could just summarize it for us.
The summary of this, like, she's been arrested. So this woman is 21 years old. She's a member of a sorority house. She had her baby, placed a baby in a trash bag, literally alongside a mac and cheese box and other trash, and put her in the Delta Gamma Theta sorority house dumpster right outside her own sorority house at Muskegum University here in Ohio. And then she drove on to McDonald's, and that was that. She was done, she thought. Law enforcement, by the time she got back, law enforcement was already there. They arrested her immediately as soon as the crime came to light. She confessed, so it's not something where she has denied this and is being accused and fighting the accusation. She confessed to police that she did this, and she confessed that she had no concern for the baby. She was concerned for her well-being and taking care of herself. That she was in denial throughout the pregnancy, that she maintained her usual habits, that she'd been partying, smoking pot, competing in a dodgeball tournament, never had any intentions on keeping the baby. So the reason that I wanted to talk about this is 2 elections ago in Ohio, we had some interesting shenanigans begin. We had a bunch of people went around with a petition, and they got put on as a ballot issue, reducing the number of the percentage of the population that it took to get an amendment made to the Ohio Constitution from a 2/3 majority to 51%. And then in the last election, which was the one right after that, they had abortion enshrined as health care in a constitutional amendment in the Ohio Constitution. So this chick could have had an abortion at any time. She could have killed the baby before birth. She did not have to go through the birthing process. She did not have to leave a living, breathing human being to suffer and die in a dumpster amid garbage and in exposed to the weather and all that. And even if abortion hadn't been available, even if we had, a law that completely banned all abortion here in Ohio, she also had local areas that she could have gone to for safe haven abandonment. So she had 2 options besides putting a baby in the dumpster. And by the way, safe haven abandonment exists specifically because of this phenomenon. Right? The reason that women, and it really is only women, because when a man does it, he's kidnapping. Right? When a woman does it, she already has custody of the baby. But the reason women can take their babies to a fire station or a hospital or certain churches and give them up to safe haven abandonment is to prevent this phenomenon from occurring. And yet here we are in 2024 with safe haven abandonment centers all over the state and abortion enshrined in our Constitution as health care for women and a dumpster baby making the news.
Yeah, pretty dark. Mike, did you want to say anything about Eyes Too Close Together, lady? Or should we just I think Hannah basically summed it up. It's evil. That's all I know. So, well, we can't hold women accountable because like men are the reason they are evil somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes, I do. All right. So, that's it for the stories, I guess. I did get a super chat that I didn't read, so I'm going to go ahead and read it now from Meredith G. Thank you, Meredith. This is related to the Derek Chauvin story. She gave us $5 and says, my problem with the Chauvin verdict is the man didn't use excessive force. He was dealing with a known addict who was dying because of the combination of taking drugs and external stressors. He was convicted because videos show him handling the crowd poorly. Floyd was killed by the system. No one talks about that because of the shutdown. He had no job, no access to 12-step meeting or anything else. He needed to stay clean, not by the knee on his back. Yes, and also his family that came out like crying on TV like after his death, they weren't there for him before. They came out afterwards because number one, especially the mom, she had to like clear her own reputation because she doesn't want people going back and saying, where were you for this man when he was struggling? So she had to come out and say, oh, my baby. And the other thing is the dad wasn't even in his life, just like with Jordan Neely, same business. He wasn't even in his life until after he died. And now it's all like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? So, yes, sure, George Floyd was failed by the welfare state, by the single mom industrial complex created by feminists and Lyndon B. Johnson back in the day. And no one wants to address it because they'd rather just blame white people. And Derek Chauvin was a victim of anti-whiteism, pure and simple. Like, there was just an excuse to throw him under the bus so that they can attack, burn, destroy, loot, and grift billions of dollars off of taxpayers while, still crying victim. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed those mansions, BLM leaders, Patrisse Cullors and friends. That's why the BLM movement wants to maintain a system of fatherlessness, because they know it's all opportunities. That's why on their charter, their mission statement, which they took down, it said what? We disrupt the patriarchal Western prescribed nuclear family in favor of a system that supports basically anything but fathers. Mothers, parents, aunts, like grandmas, like no men. And they want it that way because
the circumstance that creates an increased likelihood,
yes,
that a boy will grow up to get in trouble with the law.
Right. They perpetuate the system by claiming it's the best system. And every time it's boys that get in trouble with the law, they use that to say, see, this is what men do. Even though women are doing this to boys to make them into men who do this. And then they take the credit for pointing out the problem they'll never fix. They continue to perpetuate the problem, and they get rich off the problem. And that's it. That's what's happened. And until people realize that, it's just going to keep happening, and it's going to happen to blacks more and more. And the thing is, too, they don't even give a shit about your vote anymore, because now they've imported a bunch of illegal immigrants. So guess what, black people? You don't even matter to them now. So you matter even less now than you did when you were politically expedient under the correct conditions of your death. Not when you're killing each other in gang-related violence, not when you're killing yourselves with the food that you eat or the drugs that you take or how you waste away, in your communities. No, only when you are killed by a person who has the right skin color and it's on film and it can be spun to turn you into a victim. That's when they come out, and that's when they grift, and that's when they destroy your communities. They promote it. So yeah, they create the system and perpetuate the system that continues to give them relevance. And it's really good. It's probably a good idea. And this is why I point out these supposedly racially charged incidents. It's really good to look at the pattern of behavior and the pattern of activism when it happens in a space that's really obvious, and then look at it in other places. Look at the way feminist women, for example, use the same tactics to create the same conditions so that they can continue to grift, like from women's victimhood or whatever. It's the same thing. So there you go. Anyway, thank you, Meredith G. And let me just make sure I didn't miss any other things. So I guess we're going to go into the patron show if there's nothing else. And we're going to look at this article from the New York Times. Could be kind of fun, where they're starting to ask themselves, is the awkward diversity era of Hollywood behind us? This could be fun. So why don't you guys, if you want to join us, go to feedthebadger.com/subscribe, and you'll be able to watch the additional content. And if you give it higher levels, you can even jump into the actual discussion room with us on Discord. But in the meantime, if you just want to check out the Discord server for free, you can go to badgernation.online, and there you will find a link to join like the free part of the Discord. All right. So with all that said, I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I want to thank Mike and Hannah for giving me their time on Christmas Eve to hang out with us. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will see you all next Tuesday. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you guys soon. Merry Christmas.
Fuck
Ho, ho.
Hassan Piker. Fuck
Ho,
whatever Hassan
ho,
Piker is
ho.
is about to tell you.
Oh, is he going to tell us
Fucking
something?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. All right.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.